Steve here with Table Rock Tea Company. If you've been following this channel, you'll know that this is not just about tea as far as growing and biology and processing, but it's also about the business and philosophical side of the tea industry. Now, many of you know that I am a CEO coach, so I often will coach entrepreneurs. I particularly like to coach founders and small companies, startups. That's just my niche, and I enjoy that. So if you need some CEO coaching, feel free to contact me. I have pretty reasonable rates, and I'll be happy to help you out. But I've been involved in several different industries over the years, everything from water well drilling to soap to exotic pet trade, aquariums, and of course now we have a tea company. And doing business is certainly one side of tea that I think is lacking as far as resource goes. So hopefully I'll be able to pull out some tips and pointers here and there. I am in my third and final editing of my upcoming book called All In Again. It's Unsolicited Advice from a Serial Entrepreneur. That's the subtitle. And it's a collection of one-topic business and leadership essays. It's a really great book, if I do say so myself. But it's in the final editing stages. Hope to have that published this year. But as I'm going through those edits, I'm kind of coming across some topics that I decided to make a video on, and this is one of those topics. And it has to do with patents and trademarks and basically intellectual property. That's something that I get asked about a lot. Look, actually, I just noticed this behind me. That is an old poster of medical devices, antique medical devices, like schematics from the patent books. I've actually invented surgical equipment and a zillion other things, especially in the water business for drilling and filtration and that kind of stuff. I hold no patents. I could own probably 24 patents, and my ego would really like that. But the reality is I hold no patents, and there's a reason for that. And I'll explain that a little bit because it's pretty often that I get asked about patents, especially if I come up with some kind of idea or some invention, right? You have to know, first of all, the marketability of the product that you are working with, right? So I've done a bunch of things in the US tea space, but the reality is that the market is not that big. There are just not a lot of US growers, right? So if I invest all this R&D and patent, this machine, am I really going to be able to sell it? That's a kind of a big deal. If you can't really sell it, it's really not worth it. And again, patent can be an ego trip. I want to explain in this video the difference between patents and trademarks, and also some tips on appropriate intellectual property that you should protect if you're a small business. Now, let me start by saying that I believe it's a good idea to protect your intellectual property. How you do that is where things get a little squirrely. For us, for Table Rock Tea Company, we deal with a lot of trademarks, but we don't deal with patents. Trademarks are for a service or a name of a product, that kind of thing, but it's not for the product itself. So in other words, if you invented, say, or came up with a tea blend, for example, we'll just use it in the tea space. If you came up with a tea blend, you could potentially, if it has some kind of proprietary technique, you could patent that technique, the ingredients, all of that. That's different than protecting the name. Like, let's say you want to call it something clever, right? So, for example, we came up with a very specialized way of processing a cold harvested green tea. Nobody else in the world makes it, and it's called Winterleaf. We trademarked Winterleaf. Don't have a patent on how to make Winterleaf because essentially a lot of it has to do with climate, and for the most part, people that grow tea in normal regions can't make it anyway. So it's a little bit of self-protected already. But we wanted the name to stick, and if people use the technology or use the methodology, that they can then use under license the name Winterleaf, okay? Obviously, Table Rock Tea Company, that's trademarked. That's not a patent, that's a trademark. Trademarks are relatively inexpensive. They are fairly easy to get, but they take a while. It usually will take about a year from the time that you start, and you have to show usage. This is the part that I really have a problem with, okay? So let me walk you through the process here on how you'll trademark something. So for example, the name, Table Rock Tea Company, which is trademarked. What you have to do is show that it is in use, which means you have to expose that name to the public before it's even trademarked, okay? And so when you see on a package that little TM, that TM means that it's being considered for trademark, that it's under the process of being trademarked. That converts, that little TM converts to an R with a circle, which means that it's a registered trademark. Now here's the problem. This is the thing that the U.S. Patent and Trade Office, or the USPTO, does not understand. So if anybody from that department is listening, which I don't think you would be, understand that those regulations are a real pain in the butt, because the only way that you can put a product out there is if you then go ahead and establish your packaging, you're using the name, but you don't know if you're going to get the name. And that's a lot when it comes to printing material and labels, packaging, all that stuff costs a lot of money. And to put it out there in an unprotected state is really putting the cart before the horse. And I've always had a problem with USPTO on that, because those guys are definitely not entrepreneurs. They've never started a business. They've never had any skin in the game. So that's a problem. So anyhow, what you do is you put it in use and then you apply for the trademark. The best way to know if a name is currently taken, at least here in the United States, is go to the USPTO website. I think it's uspto.gov, and look under the test. It's trademark something something, but it's TESS, and it's you do a basic word search. For example, if you typed in Winterleaf or Table Rock Tea, what it'll show you is all the examples of that in usage across industries, okay? So it'll show you if it's used in the tea space or if it was used in some other industry, because you can trademark names that are used in a different industry than the one you were looking at doing. You just have to make the case for it. Now, this is where, as much as I absolutely can't stand attorneys, it's best to go through an intellectual property attorney. It'll cost you about $1,100. It'll take about a year. But the reality is that if you try to do the trademark yourself, more than likely it'll get rejected. And I believe if it gets rejected twice, that's kind of it. You have a much higher percentage of getting that trademark through and approved by having an attorney. One of the trademarks I'm most proud of getting, and it was just a huge thing, was Table Rock Tea Company actually owns the trademark Real American Tea. That's huge, right? That's a big one. And so that had to be very specific on how we went through that trademark process. And that's best done with an IP or intellectual property attorney. They're not cheap, but that's just how it is. So that's trademarking. I think trademarks are very useful, patents not so much. If you actually have a product that you're trying to patent, a legit solid patent will cost you about 10 grand to actually have one that's worth its salt. Here's the problem. That's only for the United States. In the case with us, when we had Hydro Emissions International and we had all these products that we could trademark, that we could patent, we would have had to patent them for every country in which we were involved, which at the time was like 30 countries. So roll that out over $10,000, that's a lot of money. especially if it's something like that we were making, which was intended to be replicated in the third world. So just be careful about that. Like I said, it's really cool to have a patent hanging on your wall. You know, my dad had patents to his name. You know, part of me, the ego, would like that, but don't let ego cloud your judgment just because you want to have a certificate on the wall. Like I say in my book, I'll tell you what, you send me $5,000 and I will print out a certificate, frame it, and tell you how great you are, and you can hang it on your wall. But if it's not going to actually give you true value, the value in a patent is on how much you're willing to litigate. So in other words, if you are willing to track down and get people and hire an attorney to sue them for patent infringement, that's, if you want to live your life like that, I think it's a terrible way to live, but that's the only way that patents really are useful. Some of the big companies have, you know, whole departments of attorneys, they can do that kind of stuff. Either way, I think it's kind of a rotten way to live. So to me, unless you're really coming out with some gizmo that you're going to mass market and make millions of dollars and saturate the market with and get out, patents are relatively useless. The other thing too is that somebody can alter a critical component of that patent and your patent's gone. So in other words, if they change the material or a slight design change or whatever, they can circumvent your patent. But again, trademarks are important. They are helpful. One thing that I will tell any new entrepreneur is that if you even have an inkling of a name of a company or a product that you are looking at putting out on the market, go ahead, go to GoDaddy, or I forget who else is selling domains, but purchase the domains, get the web domains, you know, buy, you know, the .com or the .org of the name that you want, because right now everything is web traffic. So that's really where the life of a company is now. So, you know, I would hate to have gone through, you know, Table Rock Tea Company not owning TableRockTea.com, TableRockTeaCompany.com, pick up all of those pieces of real estate. That includes Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is that you want with that name. Make sure that you can use that name in a very real sense in reality. I think that's actually your biggest trademark protection, is to own the real estate that is used with that name. Now you have to be careful, because if you buy that stuff, just know that somebody can come back later and trademark the name and come at you if you use that domain or whatever pointed to yours and you don't actually own the trademark. So I'm saying to do this in conjunction with the trademarking, that you'll make sure you have the real estate. Go to USPTO first, make sure that the name or words that you want to use are available to you, that nobody else has them. Then make sure you've got it on the internet. Then go ahead with your trademark. So anyway, that's kind of the way that works. Like I said, it is costly, so make sure you really want it. Don't do something just out of ego, because ego doesn't put food on the table. You know, make sure that it's worth it to you. So we own a lot of trademarks. Some of them we've let expire just because they weren't very worthwhile to us. But other ones we've held on to for years, even parked there in hopes that someday we'll use it. So anyway, I hope you found that helpful, and I hope I didn't ramble too much. Check out some of the other business videos, and again, look for the book coming out. I can't tell you when it's going to be, hopefully by the end of the year, but it's called All In Again, and we hope to publish that this year. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned to see what else is brewing here at Table Rock Tea Company.